And now you should be able to do this. Hey, how's it going guys? My name's Daniel, aka HashLips, and welcome to today's demo video of the new Art Engine. But you might be watching this video and be like, well Daniel, the Art Engine always was code, or at least somewhat just code, right? Yes, of course it was. So a brief history, the Art Engine is used to create generative NFT artworks. And back in the day, I built the very first repo, I think it was in 2021. This was the bare core code base for layering images via art. This did extremely well, as you can see from the stars and people using and forking the repo and building their iterations on top of this. I found a developer named Liharko after this, and we set out on a journey to build out the Art Engine v2. This one actually is so awesome. You can add plugins to it, and you can check out Liharko. Here he is, and there's my profile as well. Basically, this Art Engine used plugins to build basically anything. You can do videos, as long as there's a developer who made a plugin. But again, this was purely code, and although you could find this easily on NPM and install it, only developers really knew how to use it. And although about 2 years ago I did make a tool that used Photoshop and made it easier for artists to use the Art Engine without any coding, and you can find it on this video over here. But that being said, this looks lame, to be honest, and 2 years have passed and I've been observing the space and I've been seeing people creating the Art Engine in visual UI formats, and I thought it was time. It was time for us to give it a go and attempt to build the Art Engine that anyone can use without coding. And so I went back to the drawing board and thought to myself, how would the perfect tool look like for me as a visual artist to create NFT art? Something I can use on a daily basis that gives me that flexibility and control that I need to perfectly execute my collections. And this is the tool that I came up with. Through iterations of designs back and forth, I think it is finally good enough to show as a demo. I am responsible for building out the front end, and Liharko is going to cover the back end. This means that we can have regular updates, so when we find time to build in new features, I can make a video and share it with you guys for you to try out. This is very exciting, and I'm doing this for two purposes. Mainly one, to solidify the look and feel of the official Art Engine UI. And two, to use this as a basis. Seeing that I'm building out the front end, I would love to share in videos how you can do the same. How you can apply the stylings and concepts of using HTML and CSS and React to build out your applications. I always love to teach, so this is a good basis to use as well. All right, so let's get into it. So what we have in front of us is the Art Engine itself. When you open it up, you'll see all these panels. You have on the left-hand side a navigation panel, an asset explorer, a preview panel, a configurations panel, and then a groups and compositions panel. Each one of these panels is made so that you can logically think about how you create the artworks and how it's going to layer on top of one another. So I'm not going to cover all the buttons, but mainly the main features. So firstly, a lot of the things in the Art Engine is configurable. For example, the collection itself, you can go ahead and rename, maybe call this my art collection, and you'll see seeds are generated. I'll get more into that once I make tutorials on how to use it itself. You can lock configuration, which is pretty cool. On the left-hand side, you can add all of your assets that you are about to use. And that has error validation too, to make sure that you upload files that we accept. And so you can see here's some kind of folder structure, which is pretty cool. And previously in the code art engines, you'll see that the naming conventions still had these underscores. I can actually get rid of them now and rename our files. We do not use the naming conventions of files in this art engine. So This is just data that I pulled in from the previous art engines anyway. However, you can select the traits and the options and configure them. So you can maybe change the name to something new that you want to put this at, or change the editor's color so that you can actually see the color change on the editor itself. Maybe you struggle to see light colors and you would like it to be more dark or light, whatever you like to do. And the same goes for options. Here we actually get to see a little preview image of what we are setting. And again, we can set the name to whatever we want to, or we can also change the colors. And again, with everything in the art engine, you can lock the configuration and you'll see these little lock icons pop up. This is so that if you are really happy with everything that you've done and you don't want to accidentally change it, you can do it like this. So once you are happy with all your options being in the respective traits, so we have all the backgrounds in the background layer, we can go ahead and create a group and actually start defining how many generations we want. So on the group section, you add the plus icon and we have a group here. If you select the group header, you can configure this too. So we can give this a name and I'm just going to say, this is my digital group. This will not pop up in metadata. This is just for us to know what we are working with. So basically, I've got a digital group, which I'm going to use these traits to generate them in. And I need to set a generation amount. So for this, I'm going to say I would like you to do maybe 10 generations of these layers in the group. Now you can see in the preview, we can actually start seeing how the generation is going to look. And so we can definitely see there's nothing there. And that's because our layer order over here is wrong. So we can go ahead and configure this. We can start by dragging the background to the bottom and just figure out which layers needs to go on top of which one. This might change in the future as well. But for now, once you've done that and you click on your group, it will regenerate. And now we can just click on this refresh button to see iterations of how it will look like in the specific order that we've dragged them in. Now that we know we are going to generate 10 images, the configuration is not done. We can do a lot more. We can go into each one of these instance traits and set things like the visibility on them. We can do we want to include metadata or not? We can also see that this is the background layer, but this is locked because this has reference to the original basically trait, right? So these are just instance levels because you can create many groups, which I'll get to in just a second. If you select one of the options in this group here at the bottom, you can see that we can also see the preview, set visibility, but something very important, we can set the rarity. One thing to understand is that this composition over here is not a timeline. It does not work like video editing software where it runs in a chronological order like this. Instead, this is a visual way for you to see how rare your options are going to be. For example, if we go to these subjects, we can see this man over there. I would like him to be quite rare. So I'm going to think about my digital collection. It has 10 items and maybe I want only one instance of him in my collection. For the flowers, I can set that to maybe 2. And so for this thinker, we can maybe increase this to 3. And for the cat, maybe 2, and the rest the frame. Now we can go even further and say, you know what, for this man with hat, we actually want to increase it. And you can see how the relationship between your other traits starts shrinking. And this is a visual way for you to see how rare a trait is truly going to be. So if I really want to ramp this up, I can do it like this. And we basically start defining our rarities. Because we do not have a lot of traits in this collection, it is very small. There's not a lot of spaces between these items. However, when you go over the collection size, there will be some informative data to tell you that you have stretched the boundaries too far, or this will impact certain items. The idea here is to really nail down exactly what you want in your collection. Never before have we been able to explicitly say, create one, let's say, cat trait. And that should be there. We do not care where it pops up in the collection, but indeed we really want this cat to be only one instance. And so we can set that and rather increase the other layers. So we know that we will have a full collection, and with the UI, it will also be explanatory and guide you along the way where those confinements or those limits really are. And I think this is way more understandable than defining a rarity trait or a percentage, because sometimes that is skewed and you cannot have exact control. Although we are going to have some cool dice features which will just random everything. Talking about groups, we can now click on add another group and we can see we have a new group. Maybe we want to have a paper section, right? So we're going to say we would like 10 papers as well. So we can now start defining our groups, reordering the layers, removing some of the other layers. Maybe we just want 2 traits in here. Go ahead and set the rarities, or not set them, and have a look at how our collection is actually generated. And one thing to note is that these are instance variables, so you can set different rarities on different options within layers, which is really cool. So this gives us a lot of flexibility. Now, let me show you something very special that you can do with the Art Engine as well. Apart from rendering or refreshing and getting instances like this, I've added a special button which is here in the corner, and if you click this, you can start seeing your artworks in 3D space. This is done for 2 reasons. In the future, I would like to have 3D objects being generated in here, but when you're dealing with 2D surfaces, I found an extra cool way to display this. And so this is why I started the video off with this, because I think when you experience this yourself for the first time, you're really going to enjoy it. So if you have the 3D option selected, you can now click on this button, and immediately the traits start separating from the image. And you can start analyzing how they actually fit together. Maybe you really want to see what's actually happening and how they are fitting on top of one another to debug. You can generate in this state so that you can try different items out. And you can also set the distance so that maybe you just want to see if something is aligning correctly. Whatever the case might be, you can go ahead and debug, which I feel like is the advantage of using a UI engine. You can also go ahead and select some of these traits to make sure that what you want to do as an artist is applied. And so I think having a visual art engine is good for the fact that you do not have to use code. But when we can take it even a step further, then it becomes amazing to use. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is the tool that Lihako and myself are busy building. It's not out yet. I just wanted to show this because I was too excited not to. And of course, there's a lot more features, such as the generation part, how the images gets rendered to your machine, and so forth. But that I would put in future videos. But for now, I was too excited to show this. And if it comes out later this year, I am going to be so excited to share it with you all, and I cannot wait to hear the feedback. But before then, to encourage us to build these tools and to keep on trying to add value to the artist who's trying to create, please give this video the biggest thumbs up that you can. And finally, go ahead and comment below something that you really enjoyed from seeing this demo section. If you want to suggest features, do this in the comment section. Please share this video with your friends, and the reason why I'm asking is so that the algorithm can pick this up and really share it to the world, especially people who have used the original Art Engine. I think will really appreciate the journey that it's taken to get to this point. And with that, I really hope that you have an amazing day out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers for now.